Welcome to the next session of our Innovation A series, Leading Innovation, Part 1. I'm Andy Tilstra.
And I'm Karen Tilstra, and we're from Creativity Effect, where our mission is simple. We want to help anyone wanting to develop new mindset, skills, and tools to become a stellar creative thinker, problem solver, and problem finder. We're happy to be here and welcome.
Absolutely. And as I've said right before, we are in the first part of our Leading Innovation section in our Innovation A series. If you've joined us before, we want to thank you so much. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. So this is a 7-part series on how to become an innovation ace and to orchestrate innovation for your organization, any size, anywhere, any place. Anything you want to add, Karen, before we get into the goals of the day and what to expect?
Right. Well, this is the, remember 3 parts: launching, leading, and landing. We're just entering the leading phase. And today we want to show you, we're going to give you 2 bonus tools and then 3 innovation models that you can use when you are facing some very specific situations. And these tools can be used in a corporation, in a small team, a big team, in churches and schools, with families, whatever. You can use these tools. So we're excited to share them with you.
Absolutely. So as Karen mentioned, we originally said 3 ways to spark creative thinking within your teams. We decided to add 2 bonus ways. So you're welcome. And if you guys are watching us live, post in the comments any questions or things along the way. We'll answer them and interact with them throughout this presentation. We want this to be more of a conversation instead of a lecture or a webinar. Well, with that, let's get into it with our first bonus tool as we start the leading of innovation. Now, that first bonus is called setting the stage. So when Karen and I were designing these 3 tools for leading innovation, we were thinking, there needs to be something before, in between launching and leading, when the project champion or the project facilitator is calling all the people to get into the space. So this setting the stage is some of the things to keep in mind before the team arrives physically in the space. And those 5 things are split up into 2 sections: the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. And Karen, you can give us some more description, but I'll just briefly go over the must-haves very fast. So the first one is to allot appropriate time for the session. So when you're setting the stage, you want to make sure you have enough time for the innovation to happen. Number 2 is to clarify the structure and expectation of the meeting. Now, we want to make sure they know why they're here or in the innovation and what is to be expected from them. Number 3 is what's in it for the participants, what's their incentive for being there, and then have the necessary tools on hand for easy access. Now, those tools are things that we've gone over in previous sessions and in this session today. So it's like structures and models for innovation. And the 5th one is to make sure you have leadership support for having that group there. You don't want to be going behind anyone's back or breaking any corporate culture boundaries or rules. So that's a brief little summary of the 5 elements. Karen, can you give us a little bit more description of the setting the stage for innovation?
Absolutely. And you might be saying, oh yeah, we get that. But the 5 things Andy just said are common mistakes. People forget to do these things, or they actually maybe not forget, maybe they don't even think about it to begin with. So this is before. And then, and what I say, nice to have refreshments, put people in different place, change the scenery. Awesome. Takes your brain to a different place. Have a diversified team, a cross-functional team, just not the same old group that's always together. Have a sense of humor and provide music. These things do make a difference because they activate the brain in a different way. And when you're trying to creatively think or problem solve, you want your brain activated, not just in a linear, rational way. And so these are just some things to bear in mind. And again, they seem obvious, like, oh, who wouldn't think of this? Well, we've been involved in a lot of innovation sessions and projects and consulting, and people don't always think of this. So there's just a little bonus for you.
Awesome. And if this seems like a lot, because we're going to be going over 4 more tools, you can email me at andy@creativityeffect.com or check out our website. We'll be updating it as soon as possible for a link to download these tools. There should be a link in the website for the idea lift. It's one thing we went over in a previous webinar, and we're working on getting the last session's 5 tools up there for launching innovation. And after today, if you email me or check out the website, you can get your own copy of these in case you want to go over more in depth or actually use this within your team's organization. So setting the stage is the first bonus tool that we wanted to show you. Let's move on to the second one, which is igniting your team. Now, this is when you get the team physically in the space, and it's how you section it off and how you structure the meeting and the innovation time so that you get the most out of your team. So you ignite them to create the most amount of impact. And that's split into 6 sections. Well, actually 5. I miscounted. Karen, do you want to give us some description of that?
Yes, I'll be happy to. And again, igniting the team, people say, wouldn't we always do that? It's very easy when you get into a work setting or a different kind of setting where you're hurrying along and getting things done. Just take a pause to unite the team, to ignite the team's energy. Remember, creativity, problem solving, problem finding requires a different part of the brain, and which requires us to do some different things. So let the group know why they're there. Give a check-in, and check in like a team check-in. We say, hi, I'm Karen and I'm checking in. Might seem kind of silly, but you're telling yourself, I am checking into this. And also all the other team members know you're checking in also.
And the next is a simple engagement. We like to say, we don't like to say icebreakers because that feels a little cliche and surface level. We like to say engagements or stokes. This is to create energy and also to activate different parts of the brain. There's research showing that if you get up and move, the brain is activated in different ways and actually increases the ability to think in more flexible ways moving forward. So the engagement, while optional, we highly recommend it because it can actually increase the quality of the innovation moving forward.
And we're not saying you have to run around the room clapping your hands or doing cartwheels around the room. Sometimes just getting up and greeting someone next to you, or movement. Because remember, creativity requires getting out of your linear and rational brain to get into the creative side, where later you can combine the two.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Innovation roles. That means just decide, do we need a scribe? Do we need a timekeeper? Do we need a dang sure monitor? The dang sure monitor is someone who makes sure everyone has talked or speaking or feels engaged. And yeah, it's pretty easy. Just get the roles. And then
we have the innovation model, which could be design thinking. It could be a hackathon, InnoTrek. Moving forward to our next 3 tools, it could be one of those, or it could be possibly one from before. Innovation doesn't have to be an entire 6-month, 1 year long process. It could be an hour long, or it could be a week long, or 2 days. So understand the innovation model. And actually, there's a 6th stage to this, but since we're constantly creating and correcting, it didn't seem to make it onto this final presentation, and that is the wrap up.
Yeah. Well, we just ask people to just reflect. What did they learn? What are they going to take away? There's no learning without reflection. And so whenever you have a group problem solving, creatively thinking, and when the end of the session, take a minute, really just be a minute. What did we learn? Anybody want to share? What are you going to take away? What's our next steps?
Mm-hmm.
It's common sense, but sometimes it's common sense isn't all that common sometimes. Unfortunately.
And we're hoping that by giving you these tools or these deliverables, that it lays out a structure to help ease you into this process, so that it can maybe remember or help you go through this complicated structure of innovating for your organization in a complex problem. So even though it seems simple, we're hoping that it's helpful in getting your thoughts together and structuring out your innovation effectively.
Awesome. Yep.
So let's start moving into the actual 3 tools of leading innovation, starting with the Power Hour. Now, Karen, why and when would you use a Power Hour?
So the Power Hour has a very specific reason for existing. It's a simple tool. You can use it in any setting, and it's when you have a really bold ambition with a significant constraint. Take, for example, a school here in Orlando who called and asked us to help them figure out how they might become a stellar school that could be an example of innovation to the nation. And here was their constraint. They didn't want to spend any extra money. So it was awesome. And so there was 80 people involved, teachers, some parents and school board people, et cetera, et cetera. We did 4 groups of 20, and everyone understood. Again, remember the igniting the team, they understood their roles. We did an activation with them, and it was a time where they could come and give their ideas, and sticking with that bold ambition and that significant constraint. So how does it work, Andy?
Well, the Power Hour is very simple. There's 4 sections to the Power Hours. The first one is to set the stage. You give the challenge or the problem with a little bit of context around it.
And the The second one is the bold ambition, and creativity loves constraints. And so just kind of small is the bold ambition. What's your big thing you're trying to do? Coupled with Andy,
the significant constraint, which is the third section, which is what's the biggest barrier, what's the biggest hurdle that you have to keep in mind moving forward with this challenge or project.
And then once they understand that, we divide, depending on the size of the group, you could do it with a small group or a large group. Let them go out and in the room and generate ideas. And have them post-it notes, have them put their ideas, just generate ideas quickly. It's usually give them a certain length of time. When that time ends, we then, everyone stops, and then they come together to wrap up the power hour. And Andy, how do they do that?
So by wrapping up the power hour, it's done in a fairly fun way. We do it in a Boggle style. So with all the participants, just kind of start with one group and they say what ideas they had. If any ideas match another group's, they cross it out. So in Boggle, if you with the letters provided, if you have a same word as someone else, both are nullified. So with these ideas, we're hoping to weed out the common thought ones or the ones that maybe are low fruit, and we're looking for more interesting, specific, or original ideas moving forward. And that's the power hour. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Karen, before we move on to our second tool.
Penn, sometimes you save the common ideas. Sometimes you throw them out if you're trying to get real edgy. But it's what's really powerful about this is it gets people in, ignites a lot of energy. And then by doing the sorting of ideas at the end, when the group leaves, the facilitators, in case like us, the ideas were already somewhat sorted and we can make better sense of them. And what I loved is people got really excited, like, oh, we had an original idea that no one else thought of. But again, you don't have to throw away the ones that matched each group. You could save those. You just know those tend to be the more low fruit or the like anyone would think of them. And but they're not necessarily bad ideas. So anyway, that's the power hour. Use it when you want to get involvement or input from a large group of people, and you have a group that's working on a project, and you have a very bold ambition with a very significant, clear constraint, and people can weigh in from all over. It's simple, it's easy, and people appreciate it.
Moving on to our second tool is the prototype push. Now, a prototype push, what is a prototype push and when would they use it? Karen, before we move into the how, that's the part I'll take, but what is this and why would they use a prototype push?
The prototype push is, we developed it because we started seeing a need for people who had a prototype. They created something new and they had a tangible representation of their idea and they wanted feedback on it. And it's very rapid, it's very quick. So for example, a group of people who run what's called the food pantry. The Love Pantry. It's a food pantry for students, needy students or at need students or in schools, specific schools in the Central Florida area. And they chose to call us the Love Pantry. Well, they might have wanted to get a different name because if you look up Love Pantry on Google, you don't get food. Anyway, what they did is they created a whole experience of how students could receive food out of the food pantry. And they even provided they prototyped some backpacks that students could carry the food in, and also an experience where parents could come in and get food. So we invited students, teachers, principals, community members to come in and go through their experience, and they gave feedback. At first, the Love Pantry team was not as keyed in to getting the feedback. They kept defending, well, no, that's not right. That's not why we did it. You don't get it. But the idea is you just say thank you when you get the feedback. You take it in. You want to watch the people experiencing your prototype so you can really see where it works and where it doesn't work. And you don't have to be defensive. You don't have to say anything except thank you for the feedback. Or you could say, what else? Tell me more. Tell me more. Really powerful. It's quick. It's fast. And it saves a lot of money and time in the long run. And people actually love participating in this.
So how a prototype is done is fairly simple. Again, I don't know if I've said this before, but all three of these tools we're giving you today can be done in an hour. So they can be very rapid, very quick. You bring in a group and they can leave in the morning, afternoon, or even later afternoon within an hour. So these tools are meant to be done very quickly and very rapidly. So a prototype push is done when you bring the group to the innovation space and you have the participant with the prototype who then explains what the challenge is that they first discovered or first thought of solving with their prototype. So what is the challenge? And then the second question that the participant with the prototype should explain to the group giving feedback is, what was the inciting incident? What was the moment that the person creating the prototype decided that I need to fix this? And then the third thing is, what are the new insights that the prototype creator used to design the prototype? Why does it look the way it looks? Why is it square, round, large, small, red, or blue? What was the thought process behind the creation of the prototype, and what was it solving that the end user needed? So that's three simple little things that the prototype creator needs to tell the participants before they can give their feedback. After that, they hand it over and they step back and let the participants interact with their prototype.
When the fun begins. And remember, it's very simple. Just let them interact with the prototype. You do not have to defend anything. When you get feedback, just say thank you. And remember to ask them, what else? Tell me more. Tell me more. Because this is very, it's cool. This should happen all the time in organizations, in schools, in churches when they're trying new things. It would save so much time and money. And people would be more engaged, because once they know you've listened to their feedback, it's like, oh, wow, they listened to me. I helped make it better. So there's the prototype push, and you could use it in big groups, small groups, in many, many settings, in family settings.
Absolutely. And it's very important just to iterate that when you do allow your prototype exposure for feedback, you do not become defensive, because the end user and the people interacting with it, that's how the fairly average person would interact with it. So that's good information for you to know. So if it goes against what you originally thought or wanted,
embrace it.
You got to embrace it. And then that's probably a good reason to tweak it or adjust it.
Yeah. And also it forces you to actually embrace the thought that your first idea is rarely your best idea. And it keeps you from being married to ideas. And so it helps you to just keep moving along and iterating until you come out with something pretty awesome.
All right. And moving on to our third and final tool is the Innovate Anything. What is an Innovate Anything?
Innovate Anything is used when a group gets a mandate. And people don't like mandates, generally speaking. So when you get your team, your group, your unit, whatever, your church group, your classroom gets a mandate, this is the tool for you. And again, this is another tool we created out of a need. And for example, a hospital was remodeling a whole wing that happened to have a doctor's lounge and a nurse's lounge in that wing. And they got the news that because of the remodel, the nurses and doctors were going to have to share a lounge. Now, you might not think that's a big deal, but it was a big deal. And people were pretty angry. And so when we got called, it said, okay, our Innovate Anything will work here, because we'd been trying it out in other places where mandates happened. Now, I want to say something about mandates. Mandates can paralyze people, can get people stuck. So this tool is really helpful. So what they did, we brought the doctors and nurses together. We gave them a chance to say what they hated about it. And then we gave them a chance to say, what's your perfect world? And then they created a prototype from that, or an idea, and created some next steps. And what they decided was to take the existing lounge they were all forced into and put a room divider down the middle. Hospitals have a lot of room dividers, and put a room divider down the middle. And the doctors would have their coffee makers and microwaves and chairs, etc., on their side. And the nurses would have theirs on their side. And it worked. Now, you might be saying, really? They needed to come and go through an innovation experience to come up with that idea? Well, in this case, yes, they did. And in many cases, when people are mandated, they need an intervention to help them. And people have wisdom within them what to do. Oftentimes, the emotions of what's happening around can paralyze, get us stuck. And so the Innovate Anything is a wonderful tool for any kind of setting where a mandate has happened and you want to move the group forward to a more positive place. I love this. We've had so many experiences using this. And every time I walk away saying, wow, that was helpful. And again, you would be amiss if you didn't think, why couldn't they think of that on their own? But we just can't sometimes. So again, innovation tools that help. So Andy, how do we use the Innovate Anything?
Well, it's again, we love simple tools here because we hope that we can put this in front of anyone and within 30 seconds they can understand what to do. So it's very simple. There's 5 sections. The first one is the frustrations or problems with the mandate. What frustrations and problems does the group have with the mandate that they just want to get out on paper? So give the group 10 minutes to just write down on the whiteboard, the chalkboard, in the chat, if you're doing it virtually, or just on a big post-it note on the wall, or mural,
yeah,
the virtual whiteboard. Just have them write down their frustrations and problems with the mandate at the moment. Give them 10 minutes, and make sure you keep it to 10 minutes, because this could turn into a gripe session, which could take up a couple hours. But try to keep it to 10 minutes, and then after that, after 10 minutes,
if you have a good timekeeper, it's easy to keep to 10 minutes.
It is. And so after those 10 minutes,
it's very cathartic for people to do this.
Right. So then after that, they move to the next stage of the Innovate Anything.
And that's what's their ideal world. Write down your ideal world. Again, cathartic. And a lot of laughter comes now. It's like, oh, yeah, right. We're going to get that. Just have them write down their ideal world. Shoot for the moon.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, they move on to bite-sized pieces to get to that ideal world. And again, 10 minutes for this, 10 minutes for every section. So bite-sized pieces, what are those small things that can happen or need to happen for that ideal world to become a real world?
Right. And sometimes it's looking at the negatives that they've written and flip them. Then once they get some of those ideas, they go to their next steps. And then if the group is big enough, they will share. Okay, go ahead with the report out. Sometimes it's just one group. You don't have to do this last step. But if it's a big group, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, well, as what Karen is saying is sometimes you'll have 30, 40 people. If it's a large organization, we like to suggest 3 or 4 people per group. So you may have to split it up so that allows space and time for each participant to be able to share effectively. Because if you have 40 people writing on the same whiteboard, odds are there might be some people left out, or they get overrun by the more talkative people in the group. And the report out is very simple. It takes no more than 4 minutes to just explain what they thought of, what was the frustrations, what's their ideal world, what are the bite-sized pieces to get to that ideal world, and then what are their next steps? What are they going to start doing to get to that point? And they report this out to the group and to their supervisors that they invite once the Innovate Anything is coming to a close.
Yeah, and it's very positive, and you can tweak it. But again, this can be used in families. Say families get stuck. Parents have to mandate something to the kids. Take the kids through something like this. I am telling you, these 3 tools that we just presented to you, we've developed out of a need. A pattern was appearing. We just had different things that we needed more tools for. So we've developed and tested these out over a course of time and taken hundreds of people through these different models. And I am excited about it because they're really great problem solving and problem finding tools that also teach through the process how to think more creatively. And I love that. It's always exciting when we learn how to think more creatively, because we tend to stay in our linear, rational brain when actually we need to get into the creative side. And then coming down for a solution, we bring the two together. We meld creative thinking with rational thinking to actually implement some of the things we've thought of. So that's
absolutely. So that's, again, those are 2 bonus tools with our 3 tools on how to lead innovation. As I've mentioned, and I'll throw a banner up on the bottom of the screen, to download a copy of these tools, check out our website at creativityeffect.com or email me at andy@creativityeffect.com. We really want you to have access to these tools for free and just for whatever you want. We've talked a lot about this. We've been like, do we sell it? Do we not? We're just thinking, we'll just give it away for free. Just take it. Just contact us and let us know how it went for you. If you have any suggestions, anything you want to add, Karen, as we wrap this session to a close?
I'm really happy that you've joined us. We hope this is helpful. And yeah, email us if you have questions. But again, these tools are simple, rapid fire tools to help you move groups through when either they have to do something and there's a big, bold ambition with a significant constraint, power hour. When you have something, artifact you've created, a rough, like first edition artifact that represents your idea that you want to get feedback on, prototype push, or when a group has been mandated. These are all really helpful, and we hope you use them, and they help your whole team or your organization foster a culture of innovation. That would be awesome.
Awesome. Well, I'm Andy Tilstra, and I've been so glad to have you join us today, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, and I'm Karen Tilstra. Again, we're a mother and son team, and we're really excited to bring these to you and keep inspiring creativity wherever you are. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.